What if I told you that right here in Southern California, there's a place where world famous paintings and sculptures come to life? Literally. No, this isn't GCI or some special effects studio. This is real people transformed into stunning masterpieces right under the stars in Laguna Beach. It's called Pageant of the Masters, and it's one of the most jaw dropping, spellbinding, and unforgettable experiences you'll ever witness. And it's not just a performance, it is a stunning production. Today, we're pulling back the velvet curtain and stepping inside the magic with someone who knows it better than anyone. Sharbie Higuchi, the PR and marketing director, and I think your title also includes merchandising manager. Is that correct? Now we've added that for the Festival of the Arts and Pageant of the Masters. From how these living pictures are created to the heartwarming stories of volunteers who make it all happen, and they're all volunteers. You're going to hear some things that you never knew about this 90-year tradition. So don't go anywhere, because by the end of this show, you'll be calling your friends, booking your tickets, and saying, how was it that I've never seen this before? So let's step in and get started. Welcome, Sharbie Higuchi.
Hi, Valerie. So glad I'm here with you today.
Yes, thank you very much. You have such an interesting story. We do want to hear a little bit about how you got to where you are, because it is interesting. We all have a journey, and I know our viewers and our listeners would love to hear yours.
Well, it's kind of crazy. I grew up actually in West Virginia, Morgantown, West Virginia. Went to college at George Washington University. And during my Christmas breaks, I used to come out to California to visit my sister. And I came out with and visit her every Christmas break. And the last
Oh,
Christmas break, she was like, wow, did you ever consider after graduation, coming out here and to California? Well, at that same time, I have to be honest, I also went on a blind date to who is now my now husband of nearly 35 years. So that might be a little bit of the reason why I moved out to California
could
as
be.
well. So off I came to California. Wasn't sure exactly where I was going to land, actually. So I was helping her start a small business. Now you have to remember, this is before there were Google Maps. I was actually designing these wedding maps that went into beautiful invitations, wedding invitations. But I had to actually go through, do you remember the Thomas guides?
I do, absolutely. I have one still, actually.
I had to actually go through those Thomas guides and try to figure out how to get to different weddings. And it was kind of funny because here I am, a girl from, West Virginia, trying to tell people how to get to different wedding locations. So these beautiful maps. So I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do with my life. So not only was I helping her, but I was also working at a chiropractor's office for a short bit. And then I was working at a marketing agency. And I really fell in love with marketing. And I was very, very fortunate that my boss just really saw something in me, and she really encouraged me to move forward in that career, and really was my mentor, I have to say. And as time went on, I moved my way up into the company to a senior account executive. And one of my clients just happened to be the Pageant of the Masters and Festival
Oh,
art. So my predecessor, when he was leaving, he actually said to me, hey, I'm leaving. And you know what? I think you would be wonderful for the job. In fact, he said, you probably know more about the festival and the pageant than I do. So I said, why not? That would actually be my dream job. Then that phone call came, and that was 27 years ago. And
wow.
I became the marketing PR director of the Festival Arts and Pageant of the Masters and never looked back. It's truly a dream job. I love what I do. I love the company that I work for and what it represents. It does so much good for our community and for the arts.
Congratulations, because not only to get to where you did, but to be able to stay there and to be of value to the community.
Yeah,
That's a
a
great
funny
situation.
story is part of the reason he's my husband now, Darren, won my heart is when I came out here, I was really always into the arts. When I came out here to California, Southern California, I was like, where's the art? Where's the activity? And our first date was going to the Pageant of the Masters. And
Oh
we
my
sat
gosh.
way, I get chills just telling you the story again. We actually sat way in the back and everything. And it was just magical. And I couldn't believe that I would actually end up working there.
That's great. So tell us, for the benefit of our viewers and our listeners who aren't as familiar with it as you and I are, and just give us a little brief history of the Festival of the Arts, the Pageant of the Masters. How did it begin? And was it originally meant to be what it is now?
A lot of people don't realize that the Festival Arts and Pageant of the Master is a nonprofit art organization, and our mission is really to support the arts and arts education. But it started way back in 1932, actually during the
Well,
Great Depression. The Olympics were going on. The Olympics at
oh,
that
is that right? Oh, the
time
Olympics were in 32.
in Los Angeles. And so the artists of Laguna Beach and the town folk was trying to figure out how could we possibly draw people down from the Olympics in LA down to our little
Gosh.
city of Laguna Beach. And hopefully they would buy our art. And again, it's Great Depression. We just need some people to come down and purchase things and have a tourist attraction. They came up with the idea of this Festival of Arts. And at that time, it was really a celebration of the arts throughout the entire city of Laguna Beach. And there was one location, and it's between where Hotel Laguna and Laguna Art Museum is today, and that was where there was a little art show, and the artists hung their work on trees and fences, and that was the really humble beginnings of the Festival Arts. And during that time was, like I said, it was a celebration throughout the entire town. So they had equestrian show, teas with artists, all type of other activities. And it worked. It was very successful. And that is how the Festival Arts started. But so they decided, let's do it again. And in 1933, those artists are very, very clever. They came up with a very unique idea. They dressed up with famous works of art, very, very simple pieces like the Mona Lisa, Girl of the Golden West, and Atlas. And they paraded around the city of Laguna Beach. And they had the people follow them into where the art show was at that time, and just kind of like the Pied Piper, if you will. And then
Sure.
at that location, they had a very small stage, and they posed very briefly. And that was the humble beginnings of the Pageant of the Masters. It was actually a parade and a publicity stunt to the fine art, to the art show at that time. So it was a way of bringing people in to view and hopefully purchase some of the work of our artists. And that's how it started, just like that.
Well, that's an amazing story. So I have to ask, so were there any famous actors or anyone that was involved in that parade or in showing off the art, or were they all local artists?
They were mostly all local artists that paraded around. You know, we have had quite a celebrity following and people that have participated over the years. So it started, as I said, as a publicity stunt. And then there's this gentleman by the name of Roy Ropp who came along. That was in 1935. And he is considered the father of the Pageant of the Masters because he went
Oh,
to our board of directors and he said, you know, there's something really special in these living pictures. I think I can do something better with them. I want to make a theatrical production out of it. And he said, I'm going to enlist my wife, Marie. She's going to help with the costuming, the makeup, the scripting, and everything. And my neighbors are going to help out. And we're going to create a show for the Festival of Arts. And I'm going to call it the Pageant of the Masters. And that is how the pageant became the theatrical type of production it is. And everybody that helped out, and this is the key ingredient of the pageant, were volunteers.
and still are volunteers.
And the people who are in the cast today, as well as help behind the scenes, are volunteers. We do have some full time staff that actually put the whole thing together,
Sure.
that are paid. But the key element are those volunteers. And it takes roughly about 500 volunteers to put on our show. That's a lot of
A
people.
lot of people.
And yeah, and by the end of the summer, they would have, I think it's around 60,000 hours of time that they would have donated to us.
And I'm sure some of those people work not just during the pageant itself. There
Well,
must be.
all the volunteer mostly work, you know, during the pageant itself. We do have some people that come help with our, what they're called research volunteers. When the director is trying to figure out what pieces she's going to put in the show and everything, they help do some research. But mainly the volunteers help during the summer, and then we have full-time staff that put together the show itself throughout the entire year. The volunteers do have to come in once they're selected to go through rehearsals and makeup and all that, and costume fittings. And it's amazing. I've actually been in the show. My whole family's been in the show, in fact, and my kids, especially when they were growing up. So it's
How exciting.
magical to be in the show.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Yeah, I was even thinking while I was going through this, I thought, gosh, maybe I'd want to be in the show one summer.
You should try to be in the show. You could be in the show. You know how you're selected? It's all based on your size. So how
Sure.
you're selected, we have a casting call in January, and people come in and we take roughly about 35 different measurements. And based on those measurements, that is how you're going to be selected to be in the show. You do have to be able to stand still for roughly 90 seconds during the show too.
Well,
So,
that would be a challenge for sure.
right? So, so what happens after we take all these measurements? Our Richard Hill is our technical director. He will actually size up a piece of art that will make it for the stage or set size, people size, and then he'll go to our casting director, who has entered all this information to the database, and find a person of the size that, or actually has to find two, she has to find two
Okay.
people of the same size for a particular role. That's why we need so many volunteers, because we actually double cast our show, because we're a 2 month summer long production. So you can't
Okay.
imagine we don't want you to give your whole summer, because it's every single day. So we have to find two people to play a role, because we have the green cast and the blue cast, and they alternate 1 week on and then 1 week off, and the next cast will come in. So it's a fascinating process, and you can see how important those volunteers are.
That's amazing. So, how do you think? What role do you think that it has played in shaping the Laguna Beach Festival? Or what role has Laguna Beach played in keeping the festival together? And I think there was a time when there was some talk it would go to San Clemente or go to a different place. So,
Oh,
how
yes.
important is Laguna Beach to the festival?
Well, I think that is part of the formula. I can't imagine the festival and pageant without Laguna Beach, and vice versa, Laguna Beach without the festival and pageant. Laguna Beach is really a renowned, or has its identity as an arts colony, and that started way back in the 1900s, when artists used to flock to Laguna Beach because it has this beautiful coastlines and this golden
Yes.
light that you can't find anywhere else. And that was very attractive to plein air painters. And it's those artists that actually came up with the idea of the festival arts and started it also back, like I said, back in the 1930s. So it is, the festival magic is deeply woven into the fabric of Laguna Beach and its identity. And the festival actually kind of, if you will, it's like the grandmother of the festivals in Laguna Beach. We have two other festivals in town. One is the Sawdust Art Festival, and the other is the Art Affair. The Sawdust Festival is a spin-off from the Festival of Arts, and the Art Affair is a spin-off of the Sawdust. So you could say we're the grandmother and gave birth. And then Laguna Beach has probably, believe it or not, about 30 art organizations in town, in addition to all the artists. And there was a time, I think it was early 2000, late 19, maybe late 1999, early 2000, that there was a talk of possibly moving to San Clemente. Thankfully, that did not happen. And what that debate was over is, what a lot of people don't realize: the site where we're located today, we do not own that property, is actually owned by the city of Laguna Beach. And we basically rent or lease from them. So during that time, our lease was actually up and in negotiation. And the board of directors of the festival at that time felt like it was too high of a rent. So there's back and forth, going back and forth, whether, the fest would be able to, what amount they were going to pay. So I think the board at that time decided, hey, if we can't get the lease we want, well, what do? You kind of look elsewhere. And that's what they did. Thankfully, there were people that were, especially our artists, that said, no, this is not going to happen. We have to keep the Festival of Arts and Pageant the Masters in Laguna Beach. That is its birth. That's where it belongs. And they fought for that, and they ended up actually recalling that board of directors back in that time. And then a new board came in and negotiated a pretty good lease with the city of Laguna Beach. And here we are today, and hopefully for many, many years in the future.
And still at the exact same location, correct?
So the location that we're at this time, we moved there in 1941. So from 1932 to 1941, the festival was nomadic. It went from different location to different location throughout the town. So 19, where we are now is our home, and it has been since 1941. And that's the property that we do not own, but rent from the city of Laguna Beach.
Well, I'm sure that you share the your vested interest in it, both of you. It's a family property, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really important for the community. You know, we bring in, I'm going to say nearly 200,000 people will come and visit the Fest Arts and Pageant Masters through the summer. So, that's significant tourism revenue for
Mhm.
Laguna Beach and also for the surrounding area. The festival is also a very, very giving organization, and probably we give out scholarships to local um, high school students. And I think probably to date, we've given over $3.5 million in art scholarships.
Oh my.
Through a $1 million endowment, we created a foundation that it also gives money to local nonprofit art organizations, and probably has given about the same in grants. I would say about $3 million in grants. And not only immense the fact that we do, pay a rent, and that's significant. And
Mhm.
then during the summer, and we hire so many people, and probably gearing up with ushers and security guards, another
Right, of course.
250, 300 people. So we also are, heavily employed people. And then, and giving the key in our mission is giving the opportunities to our artists. And that's the fine art exhibit. And we have 120 exhibitors, a fine art show that's juried, and all of our artists are from Orange County.
And you do that intentionally, correct, to keep it local?
Yes, we do keep that intentionally. Originally, it was only Laguna Beach artists, but as the pageant and our audience have expanded, we have expanded out the boundaries to all of Orange County for artists to apply. Trying to give more opportunities and everything. And so is true with the volunteers. Volunteers of the pageant originally were all from Laguna Beach. But now, if you can believe it or not, they come as far north probably as Los Angeles, south of San Diego, Temecula, of course, Orange County. But that is true commitment on their part and dedication to be a volunteer, to come from all over the place. We had one lady that was on her bucket list to be in the pageant of the Masters, and she flew in from Chicago, if you can believe that.
Really?
Yep, just to be in the show.
Well, good for her. So, for people who have never attended, let's just give them a brief overview of what makes the Pageant of the Masters so unique.
Well, I think the show itself is what makes it so unique. So it's really hard to put in words, and you did a really great job in the intro. So what we do is we, recreate famous works of art with real people, but it's a stage production. And as we present these incredible tableau vivants, or living pictures on stage, it's accompanied by a story, a live story actually, under the stars. Our narrator is Richard Doyle, and he tells the story of each piece as they're presented, and usually how it fits in with the theme. But at the meantime, as we're telling the story, opening the curtain and showing these beautiful living pictures, there's also live orchestra music. And I have to tell you, the music is especially good this year. And there's roughly about, I think, it's about a 20 piece orchestra. So, and they are not volunteers. They're a union, Orange County Union Orchestra. But it is magical. There's nothing like it. There might have been one offs that people have tried to just maybe doing a living picture here and there, but not a full production. And it's under the stars, so that's part of the magic itself. And that makes for just like a wonderful production. You're there with your friends, your family, and watching a spectacular show that just is, it's jaw dropping. Like when you first see the person blink or move, you're like, Oh my gosh, those really are real people because it really does look just like the painting that or sculpture that we're trying to recreate.
It is absolutely amazing. It's almost unbelievable, except that you know that it's true.
Yeah, and those artisans backstage are so talented in putting the show together. We have some workshops that are on located on the pageant grounds, festival grounds. Everything is actually built from the set pieces to the costumes to the makeup design. Everything is there, created right there in Laguna Beach, which is quite remarkable too.
Can you walk us through kind of through the behind the scenes magic of how these living pictures are created?
So, oh gosh, the process. Well, first of all, our pageant director, her name is Diane Chalice Davy. She's been director now for roughly about 30 years. And since she's been on board, it's just where she's taken the pageant to a whole new level is really amazing because she is the person that introduced the idea of an organizing theme. So each year now there's a theme for the pageant and the masters. And that's really wonderful because that lets our audience know that it's going to be a different show from the year before. And so
Yes.
right now, she's actually in the process of selecting the theme. I actually know it. I'm going to let you know what it is. It's called The Greatest of All Time will be next year's show. So she
Oh,
figured out the theme. And the next part will be what pieces does she want in the show? So there's a selection process. I think I kind of referred to it a little bit. We have some research volunteers that'll go out and they will try to find pieces that seem to fit the theme, and they will present them to her. And then she's the final say what gets to go into the show and what story she wants to tell with each piece, along with our script writer, longtime script writer Dan Dooling. So they talk about it. By mid-November, they'll know what pieces they want to put in the show. And I did tell you we are a nonprofit, so they present the show at our November annual meeting to our membership base as our board of directors. And then once that is presented, then we have to get rights and permissions, unless it's public domain, for all the pieces that are going to be in the show. And every once in a while, we do not get permission, so we have to change up the show a little bit with a different.
really?
Yes. So,
Why would someone not give you permission? What would be the reason why?
well, you know what? It's a lot of the time they don't give us the permission because they don't really understand. It sounds weird what we do, right? I know when I
Sure.
try to explain it to my family and they don't understand what it is, even though we try to send them videos and everything. And then some people are just very protective of their work. We've been
Mm,
trying to do a couple, like the Sergeant Pepper Beatles album cover. Wouldn't that be cool? That's a hard one to get permission on. But anyway, so things like that that are maybe a little bit more outside the box tends to be more difficult. More and more things are public domain, so we don't even have to worry about rights and permissions as much as we used to. But we do have to go through that process. It's an important part of the process, and to respect the work of the artist who created those pieces. So we want to
certainly.
be respectful of that. Then I told you casting call begins in January. Well, in November, and once they know what pieces are going to be shown, they'll start working on the first set designs. And so they'll be cutting the carpentry department. Will start building the sets and making the sets based on the size of the technical director has directed them to do so. And then they, at the very same time, then are directors working with the script writer, coming up with the script, and she's also working on the music that's going to go with each living picture. So there's all these like parallel paths that are going on from a creative process. In January we have our casting call, and then our first rehearsal will be in February. So we usually work on three pieces at a time. Every Thursday, we will have rehearsals, and that is the set has been painted, the costumes have been made and painted, the makeup design has been done. Everybody who's in the show has to wear either a wig or a headpiece that so it looks like a painting or the sculpture that we're creating. So those are all things that we have to rehearse. And the main thing for the rehearsal is the lighting, because the lighting is actually the secret of how the 3D becomes the 2D. Because all those things I mentioned before, our scenic artist is actually painting in the style of the artist's work that we're trying to recreate. and they're painting in the shadows, the darks, the lights, and everything. And those are painted in by our scenic artists. So what happens is when the light hits the artwork that we've created, the costumes, the makeup, and everything, it washes out the shadows of everyday life, which gives us dimension. And it looks like, and so the only shadows you see are those that are painted in. So that's kind of like the process of how it happens and how it's made. It takes a lot of people to make it happen, a lot of talented people to make it happen. So we're rehearsing all the way from February through June, and everything, the script is being worked on, the music has been specifically composed by some really incredible composers, some of which have Oscar winning, Grammy winning composers who have
Wow.
are doing the music. A lot of people don't realize that's really special. And then the orchestra is also practicing. It's not until and then the volunteers before June will only have been in practice once. But then in June we have full rehearsal with everything for each cast. Only probably 4 times do we have it before we go live to the public. So it's quite a process.
Yes, it is. It is, and you've and I know this is important, but I don't think people can grasp the importance of this unless they actually see it. Is the makeup?
The makeup is really amazing. And what's really amazing, our makeup director is Michelle. She teaches volunteers how to apply the makeup. So not only do we have volunteers that are cast members, we have volunteers that are in our makeup department, our costume department. We have people that are considered runners, making sure people are where they're supposed to be at the certain time. But you don't even have to know how to apply makeup. We will teach you how. You don't have to have makeup experience. She'll teach you how to do it. And it is kind of odd when you're back there, especially with all the characters next to one another. We have a cast patios once they start being in costume and they're waiting to go up on stage. You know that bar scene from Star Wars and all the different characters? It's kind of
Yeah.
like that at the pageant, because you could have Jesus from the Last Supper next to a can girl, next to who knows what, something else, some type of sculpture. So it's really interesting to go backstage when everybody's in makeup.
And there was a little clip from Jimmy Kimmel, I think, where one of his
Yes,
staff
that
members
was
wanted to come and play
really
Jesus, but instead they made him Judas instead,
fun. Yes,
which was a
we
fun
saw that.
episode.
That's a very popular clip. Yeah, Guillermo. He
You
actually
know, yeah.
he was in the pageant. We've been on quite a few different televisions from Jimmy Kimmel. We've been spoofed on the Gilmore Girls before. We have had the Today Show host come in and be in the show. If you're familiar with Mike Rowe, he had that show Somebody's Got to Do It. He's been in
Yes.
the show. Terry Hatcher from Celebrity has been in the show, and many years back, Betty Davis, who used to live in Laguna Beach, had
Yes.
been in the show as well. So we have got quite a celebrity following too.
Yeah, Betty Davis, that's quite a long time ago.
That is quite a wow. It's been around for a long time.
She
Betty
used to go
Davis,
to the Lido Theater in Newport Beach.
yeah, because she
So
lived in
she was quite a key part in the culture of our whole Orange County beach community.
yeah.
So, what are some of the highlights of this year's Festival of Arts that visitors should especially be excited about?
Well, this year's theme for the pageant is Gold Coast Treasures of California. So the what the story is about this year is, imagine if you were taking a road trip from Sacramento down to San Diego, and along the ways you are stopping at all these wonderful museums that are in California and looking at the permanent art collection. So that's what the show is about this year. So it's a wonderful theme, and there's museum permanent art collection pieces from the Getty and Norton Simon Museum, the
Oh,
Hilbert Museum, the Bowers Museum that are
right.
being featured in the show this year. So that we are actually recreated. And it's been really lovely to form collaborations with them as well. So it's a wonderful storyline. One of my favorite portions of the show is regarding the Hearst Castle. There's some really lovely
Oh,
there. Oh my gosh, stunning just to watch that section of the show. So just the show itself is just really magical. It's getting great reviews. It's definitely a must see. It's so hard to put in words exactly what we do. So I always say you have to see it to believe it.
Yeah,
And then
but that's true. That's
yeah,
true.
it's true. It's hard to put it in words. My job's one of the hardest jobs there is out there. How do I explain this thing? you know?
Good question.
So,
Well, I have to ask you something that I'm personally curious about. I was looking through some of the old scenes and the old festivals and paintings, we'll call them. But actually, you don't call them paintings, do you? Are they called a vignette?
living pictures or tableau vivant.
Tableau vivant. Okay. Well, when I was looking, when and there was a dog. So I
Yes.
have to ask, are the animals real?
Um, well, it depends. I'm going to say if it's in a painting, typically no, that is not a real person. It's usually painted in. However, with our director, Diane Chalice Davy, over the years, she's added so much uniqueness to the show. Like, so she's had added special effects to the shows and parades. We've had a live dog in the show before, as
That was
well
a
as
question.
a horse that walked through as a part of the parade. So there are could be, and there varies from year to year what she wants to surprise the audience with, and there are surprises this year. I don't want to blow them. I want people to go and see it, but so you never know what it's going to do. In fact, she's even had it snow in the bowl before, like like fake snow onto the audience and everything. And there's parades, and there's been fireworks and balloons, and you just don't know what she's going to do to add to it. And you have to kind of keep it interesting as a new audience comes, and you want to
Yeah.
keep their interest. So she's added some video and audio visuals as well, which I think has really made it much more engaging for people to understand, especially this year, I would say too. Yeah.
Yes.
And also your pageant ticket, there's two shows that are going on at the same time. So there's the pageant, which is our nighttime performance, and it starts at 8:30 p.m. every night. But we also have the Fest Arts Fine Art Show, and that's out in front of the amphitheater. And there's 120 artist work that's being showcased. And they are artists. Their mediums range from jewelry to painting to ceramics to photography, you name it, it's there. And every type of style, from very traditional to very contemporary, abstract. But it's just gorgeous work. And as I said before, they're all Orange County artists, and it's a juried fine art show. So these people are selected to be in our show by experts, and it's an honor to get selected to be in the Festival of Art. So while you come to see, I tell everybody to come early, go to the art show, walk around, talk to artists. Maybe you see something that look great in your home or around your neck or your ears,
Yeah.
but
Or on your table. On your table, maybe.
or on your table. Yes, absolutely. And then we also has a lot of other entertainment too. So we have nightly entertainment. Our music is becoming very, very popular. We have anywhere from really jazz nights to tribute bands to classical, you name it. There's wonderful entertainment. And then we also have some fun things for the kids as well. Well, I'm going to say kids of all ages, because we have a lovely
Yes.
art center, and there's art projects that you can participate in, and really and unique things. From there's a ceramic shop workshops to printmaking to painting classes, and some of them are free and some of them are paid for classes, but it's very unique. And you go on our website and see all the art classes that are there. But one of my favorite stops is that junior art exhibit. So we have a junior
Mm.
art exhibit that's on our grounds, and it has artwork of children's work from pre-kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, also Orange County. And it's interesting because some of our artists, so pieces are submitted by the teachers, and then the kids' art is selected to be in the festival arts to be shown. And the work of the kids are just amazing. And the reason why this, I think it started back in 1947, roughly. because the idea it was to encourage young children to be interested in the arts or have an appreciation for it and maybe even become an artist themselves. And in fact, we have one of our professional artists, Anthony Salvo, many, many years ago, showed his work in that little junior art exhibit, and today
Oh,
he's a professional artist. So there's lots to see, lots to do. And that pageant ticket, it's two shows basically for the price of one because you can hold on to your pageant ticket and come back to the art show all summer long.
oh.
Take, yeah. So you can come back, listen to the music, see a concert, another day that you want to come, or you figure you want to go do an art project another day. But you can make it your art destination all summer long in Laguna Beach.
Well, there you go to our audience of listeners and viewers. You heard it right here on SoCal with Val that you can use your ticket and come back. So if you're looking for something to do that's fun and relaxing and a little different and to get outside, this is a perfect way to do that.
Absolutely.
How has the festival embraced new ideas while preserving its traditions? There are certain things that you want to always remain the same, but how do you come up with new ideas? How do you keep it fresh?
Well, I think I shared some of that with about the pageant director and using new audio visual and new technology, incorporating that into the show. The whole, we have to honor our traditions, but like you said, we have to make sure that it's still relevant for future generations. So, and our main thing is we want to continue to invest in the future of our artists and expand and reach new communities as well. So that's going to come into maybe what type of special events that we put in, how people might view artwork. From my perspective, which is the marketing, I've been now there for 27 years, but how that has switched and changed, and how we have to reach out to people to let them know about the festival and pageant, for example, like through social medias or like this podcast right now. Like we have to reach audiences in new ways as well because it used to be really easy. People read their newspapers and watched television and listened to their radio, and that was it, right? And now, oh my gosh, there's all different ways that people consume information, and we have to be sure that we're on top of that and getting the word out.
Now, you've talked already about your outreach and your involvement with bringing children into the art community. So, beyond the pageant itself, what are some of the other programs that the festival does offer to engage the community?
Okay, one thing that people don't realize is the Festival Arts has a really wonderful permanent art collection. So one way that we support our artists is we purchase artwork from our artists each year, and it goes into our permanent collection. I mean, we have artwork, very famous artwork, goes all the way back to a Joseph Kleich. Forward to, we just purchased some work this year. It's quite extensive. I would say there's roughly about three oh gosh, probably over 300 pieces now of art that's in our permanent collection. And we will show it throughout the year at different locations. We do have it's called FOA South. It's actually in it's a room that's in active culture that's downtown in Laguna Beach, but it's a beautiful exhibit space for us that we will give opportunity artists to be able to showcase their work, or we'll put our, permanent art collection out there as well. So those are ways. We have a scholarship program and ways that we keep engaged with the community. We also sublease out our grounds during the off season. So we specifically sublease out to nonprofit organizations who will get a special rate. So when we're not using our facility, it has been used by, gosh, the local Laguna Art Museum has had fundraisers there, other organizations as well, La Papa, the film festival. There's been concerts that have been held there before. So we open up our grounds for community use as well.
That's great. That's great. And but let me ask about the pieces that you buy. Then you keep those?
We do. They're in our permanent collection. We keep those. We have some, we're starting to be able to digitize some of the work and putting it up on our website. and where people could see some of the work, and trying to reach out with museums and find out different ways to be able to get the word out about like the festival permanent art collection and put it out there. Even if you come up to our grounds, we have really wonderful sculptures that are on the grounds that are by many of our festival exhibitors. In fact, this year, in the pageant, there's a piece by Bradford Solomon. It's called The Marine Room. The pageant, actually commissioned that piece to be in the show this year. And Bradford is a former Festival Arts exhibitor. That's something unique about the pageant this year. We actually have three either current festival exhibitors' artwork being recreated in the show, or a former exhibitors. And those works are by Susan Hain. She's a current exhibitor. Her work focuses on like interiors of museums and people looking at art. In fact, her work will open the show. And then a gentleman by the name of Bill Linebrook was a festival exhibitor many years ago. He did down in Dana Point, Waterman Plaza area, he did those beautiful sculptures and dedication like to Hobie and famous surfers and skateboarders. Those pieces are in the show and being recreated this year. So not only do we do paintings, but we do sculptures. And then finally Bradford's work, who also was a former festival exhibitor. His work is also in the pageant.
How exciting for them to have come
Very
up in the
exciting.
ranks, so to speak.
Yes, and Susan Hain had the very honor to actually be in her piece as
Oh,
herself. So it's
oh,
like this really interesting thing that happened. So she painted, I think it was a Vlachma painting, and in the painting, she painted herself looking at a piece of art. So she just happened to be the right size for that person that she had painted as herself, and she played herself in the pageant and herself in her painting. So
oh.
that made sense, but it
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely did. It absolutely did. What a great
was,
experience so far.
yeah,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was,
that must be the ultimate, right? To
yes,
submit something that's then chosen and you get to be a part of it, and coincidentally or not, that it happens to be the perfect right size.
yeah. And we've been collaborating with local museums. The Hilbert Museum, for example, I think there's like 5 works of art that are being featured from the Hilbert Museum. Those pieces are currently on display. The Hilbert Museum is located at Chapman University in Orange. But those 5 pieces are currently being displayed. And we had a night lecture with Mr. Hilbert, as well as our director and the artist, Bradford Solomon, not too long ago. So those are other things that we do during off season, maybe some lectures, presentation tours, things like that. But it's been a really wonderful partnership with the Hilbert Museum. In fact, Mr. Hilbert, who's the founder of Hilbert Museum, was in our show as well. So, and he played himself this year.
Oh,
There's a piece by Bradford Solomon, and oh gosh, let's see if I can think of the name of the piece. It's the crab cooker. So the crab cooker is very famous. You probably know restaurant down in Newport area. And
we go there often. Yep.
okay, then you know what I'm talking about. Well, there's a piece that Bradford did of himself, Mr. Hilbert, and another Gordon. I forget Gordon's last name, but of them talking about possibility of building a museum. And so it is that moment in time that they're sitting around at the diner, just talking about building this museum. And we are featuring that in the show. And Mr. Hilbert played himself recently in our pageant in that recreation.
How exciting. I'll need to go there and look for that actually.
Yeah, you
And
really
and, the crab cooker is quite historic and, went through a time when it was actually closed down for a while, so those of us who live there are so glad that it's back up and running. So I'll have to
oh,
go there and I will look for that
yeah,
piece.
I was just there not too long ago. Actually, one of our exhibitors, Mike Tauber, did some artwork that's in there. So if you go in the crab cooker and you go in the restrooms, there's some beautifully painted tiles in the bathroom
Oh
of like
gosh.
octopus and fish and things like that. And that is by our one of our festival exhibitors.
Well, I'll have to go look at that also. I'll have to go look at that.
Now you
So
have to, yeah, make the bathroom a different way.
I'll always look at it differently. I'll always go in there for a different reason.
I would
So
love.
tell me, people want to know, what are some of your favorite moments or memories of working with the festival?
Oh my gosh. Some of my, well, of course, being in the show itself, because a couple of times I got to be in the pageant with, along with my husband. So there was these
Uh,
beautiful porcelain figurines that were like 18th century, right? And it's a kissing couple. And so it was a magical moment that they were like on a turntable turning around and they needed a couples who were together. So because they look like they're kissing, but you're actually like this close to one another, you know? And
mhm.
I always tell them, like, did you take your mint tonight? Don't make me laugh, type of thing. But as you turn around in that piece, and it's magical to hear the applaud of the audience, and really all you're doing is really standing still. You know, a funny story I always love to tell on my son, and he's probably tired of mother telling this story, but it is a live show and you have no control what's going to happen one
No.
from one moment to the next, and one shows could be very different from the next show, right? So my son at, oh gosh, he must have been 6 or 5 years old, and he had, his big sister was in the show and he always wanted to be in the show, but he's kind of an active little boy, so we're like, I don't know if he's ready to do it or not. So but he did get asked. Our youngest volunteer, by the way, I did not mention that before, is 5 years old. That's in the show this year. And our eldest volunteer is probably 80 plus. Well, he was asked to be substitute because the person that played the role couldn't do it one night. And so there, it was a piece called El Jalejo. And in the foreground, there's this beautiful flamingo dancer. And the background, there's all these little mariachi players. Well, all the little mariachi players, because of perspective, are played by 5 or 6 year old children, right? And it's
Oh,
so cute.
oh,
With their little mustaches on, and they're holding their
sure,
little,
because they're way in the background.
yeah,
Yeah,
right. Exactly. So, so my son got to selected to be in that piece. Well, two very special things happened to him. Part of my job is I escort the VIPs around, and that night Priscilla Presley was coming to the show. So you're not going to believe it, but at 6 years old, my son's hero and like loved his music was Elvis Presley. So
really.
yeah, so he got a very special treat. He got to meet Priscilla Presley that night and then also be in the pageant like his big sister. So he met Priscilla Presley. He's very excited. Then he's going backstage, getting his costume and makeup on. And my husband and I are looking at him saying, Sean, do what they say. You won't get casted again. Hold your pose. Do exactly what you're supposed to do. Yeah, Mom, right. Okay. So backstage for the parents, there's some TVs, and we can see the pieces being presented during the show. So his piece comes up, and he's a mariachi player holding a guitar. So he's sitting there. My husband and I are glued to the TV. He's holding his pose, and then all of a sudden the lights are just about to go down. We see him strum the guitar. We're like, oh no, Sean, what happened, dear? I can't believe he did that. I don't think he's ready to be in the pageant. So he comes out, you know, he's little. So we're like, honey, we kind of saw you at the last minute strum that guitar. What was going on? He goes, Mom, Elvis's wife was here. He pretended to be Elvis
Elvis,
Presley, Priscilla
Elvis
Presley.
Presley.
So it's a live show. You never know what's going to
You never
happen.
know. Never know. That's one of the questions we got from people is, does anything ever happen where they giggle or someone sneezes or giggles during the
There's one.
show?
I'll tell you another thing that happened. Many years ago, our narrator was Thurles Ravenscroft. You might remember that name, very famous name. They're great. He was the voice of Tony the Tiger. Well, he's also
Right.
the very famous works voice of the pageant The Masters, and he had that deep baritone voice. And when he read the script, he was like the voice of God talking to you. So one night he's reading the script and he's listening, and he can hear in the orchestra pit what's going on, sort of shuffling going on down there. And they lost like a violin and then a viola, and all of a sudden he goes, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to hold the show. There's a visitor that came into the orchestra pit, but don't worry, he came properly dressed in black and white, a skunk got into the orchestra pit. So see, it's Mother Nature. You never know. It's a live show and we're outdoors. What's going to happen?
You
There are
never know.
things that do happen.
You never know. So all the time you've spent there, if you could change one thing or if there's something you would love yet to have happen, what would that be?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question. I don't know. I love it so much and what we do. I just think continue to do the good work that we do and how we could work. I'm a big promoter of art education. And so I think if we could do even more for the arts education and aspect of it, but really this organization does so much good. And I think could continue to keep our finger on the pulse and what people are interested in order to continue to attract the next generation of artists to the festival arts and new people to the pageant. So I think that's really it. It's hard. It's such a great organization. I don't really have anything that I would change.
And and people love the tradition of it. They love knowing that they're going to go and they're going to see these live pieces of art. So I don't think that the audience really wants to see a lot of change, except just something that this year they know it's a different show and a different theme. And I personally am very excited about the theme for next year. I can hardly wait. I'm sitting here thinking, well, I wonder if they'll include this or they'll include that.
Well,
And
you'll
I'll have
have
to
to,
work on the
yeah,
Beatles picture
you have
for
to
you.
work on letting me know what pieces you think might fit that theme and send them to me. I'll let the director know. You never know.
Oh,
It could
there's so many different pieces, right? It could be all kinds of adventures that could
absolutely.
be that could be a part of that, and so much history.
Yeah, there's a piece that I remember many years that we were in the show that I think would fit this. We recreated the Trevi Fountain on the stage of the pageant, the Masters. Had you gone to the show when we did that? It was just stunning, a stunning presentation. And I would hope that maybe that one might be considered for next year, but we'll see.
Is there any one piece of art that you haven't had that you personally would love to see in the pageant?
Gosh, so the pageant has parameters, right? So you have to make sure, number one, there has to be people in the picture for us to recreate. And
Yes.
then it can't just be a close up portrait, because it has to be some way sized up. So I'm not sure there's anything in particular. Some of my favorite artists, I love a Henry Matisse artist, and we have done a Matisse before in the show. And even, believe it or not, we've done a Picasso before, and that was quite striking. Gosh, a Monet's we've done. So there's so many. This year, there's some Degas that are in the show that are beautiful ballerinas. Um, they've done so much over the years. I can't think of anything fresh and new that I would want to see in there. It probably will come to me later on, right when I'm like,
It will, and you'll say, "Oh, why didn't I say that one?" I know, I know, I know. Well, it has been a delight having you with us, and we certainly will spread the word. And actually, I will be there before it closes, and hopefully, I'll get to see you there. But we'd love to have you back again and to talk about next year would be exciting.
will absolutely love that. You've been a joy to talk to as well, and thank you. And
Thank you.
easy to get tickets. Pageanttickets.com is like the easiest way to do it, to go on our
Great.
website and yeah, and come and see us, and hopefully all summer long.
Yes, yes. So, for our viewers and our listeners, if you have ever doubted the power of community, creativity, and pure Southern California magic, you must see the Pageant of the Masters. So, a huge thank you to Sharbie for giving us this behind the scenes tour and your time during pageant season. Remember, this is not just a show, it's definitely an experience, and there's still time to witness it for yourself this summer. So, be sure to get your tickets and let us know what you think of it. And we'd like to have your suggestions for next year. So, I'm Valerie Van De Zilver. This has been SoCal with Val, where we celebrate the people, the places, and all the magical passion that comes along with Southern California. Until next Friday afternoon, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep living Southern California beautifully. Thank you, Sharbie, very much for being on
Thank
our show today.